Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We have officially made it through 2 weeks of the NFL season. In week 2 of my picks, did not do quite as good as I did in week 1. Followed up my 12-4 performance in week 1 with a 6-12 record of my picks in week 2, giving me an overall record of 18-14. So let's get into these picks for week 3. Week 3 kicks off this Thursday night with the New England Patriots, who are 1-1, taking on the New York Jets, who are also 1-1. You have both these teams coming off close games. For the Patriots, it was a close loss, overtime loss to the Seattle Seahawks, and the New York Jets, it was a close victory over the Tennessee Titans. My pick for this game is going to be the New England Patriots, and it's the third week in a row I've picked them. This is another game I genuinely believe they can win. Patriots offense, their run game has looked really good. Their defense is strong still, and their run game is really good. The New York Jets, their defense, their weak point on defense has been their run defense. So I do believe that the New England Patriots are going to be able to run the ball very well against this Jets defense. And I think they're going to hold this Jets offense, slow them down just enough that they're going to squeak out a win. I think Christian Gonzalez is going to do a very good job of keeping Garrett Wilson in check. I think Keon White's going to be able to get after Aaron Rodgers a little bit. The only concern I do have for their defense is their run defense. Obviously, they still have Christian Barmore, who is out, and Jawan Bentley just went out with a torn pec. He's been kind of, their run-stuffing linebacker, their defensive captain for them. So I am interested to see who picks up the slack with Jawan Bentley going down, but I do think the Patriots are going to be able to squeak out a win here. Moving on to your Sunday games, you have the New York Giants, who are 0-2, taking on the Cleveland Browns, who are 1-1. You have the Giants coming off a loss to the Washington Commanders, in which they did not give up a touchdown, but allowed the Commanders to kick 3 field goals and to kick 7 field goals and wound up losing the game. You have the Cleveland Browns, who after getting beat pretty bad week 1 against the Cowboys, came back and their defense looked really good against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and their offense looked good enough in that game. My pick for this game is going to be the Cleveland Browns. My main reason for that is their defense. I think their defense is going to do a very good job of getting after Daniel Jones, a very good job of stopping the run. And I think their offense, once again, is going to be able to play just good enough, especially against this Giants defense that has not played very well over the first 2 games. I do think that if they can get Jerome Ford going on offense and Deshaun Watson, if he can play as well as he did against Jacksonville, this Browns team is going to pick up the win. So I do think they're going to get the win here against the Giants. Next up, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 1-1, taking on the New Orleans Saints, who are a surprising 2-0. You have the Eagles coming off of a Monday Night Football loss, very close loss. They had the game won at the end of the game against the Atlanta Falcons. Wind up giving up a late game touchdown, losing by 1 point. And you have the New Orleans Saints, who put up 40-plus points back-to-back weeks. Week 1 put up 47 against the Carolina Panthers, and this past week putting up 44 points against the Dallas Cowboys, who I thought were going to win that game last week. I thought their defense was going to look better. Their defense did not look good against the Saints. The Saints offense has been on a roll behind Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr's been looking good. Raheed Shaheed is good for a couple really big plays over the past 2 games. And Chris Olave finally had a good game against the Cowboys. And their defense still looks tremendous. So I am going to pick the Saints to win this game. I think their offense is going to be able to click. And I think their defense is going to be able to force some turnovers against the Eagles. I think they're going to be able to slow down this Eagles offense, make them make some mistakes, and the Saints are going to get a win here. Next up, you have the Denver Broncos, who are 0-2, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 2-0. The Broncos coming off of a close loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers and kind of an ugly game where their offense couldn't really get anything going, with Bo Nix throwing some interceptions. And you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off of a very close victory over the Detroit Lions, in which the Lions kind of beat themselves, but the Buccaneers played good enough to get the win. My pick for this game is going to be the Buccaneers. I think Baker Mayfield is playing too good right now. I think the Buccaneers offense looks really good with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And I just don't trust what the Broncos are able to do on offense. Because Bo Nix looks like he did early in his college career. He looks frantic. He's making lots of mistakes. He's trying to kind of do too much, do stuff that he shouldn't be trying to do. So I do think the Buccaneers are going to be able to get the win here. Next up, you have the Green Bay Packers, who are 1-1, taking on the Tennessee Titans, who are 0-2. The Green Bay Packers are coming off of a win over the Indianapolis Colts, in which Malik Willis led them to a win. He looked okay. The real story for them in that game was more so the run game. They ran the ball a ton. Their defense played really good. Intercepted Anthony Richardson 3 times. And Malik Willis played good enough to win. He didn't make many mistakes. He made good decisions. And he did good enough for this team. The Tennessee Titans, they're coming off of back-to-back close losses. Week 1 to the Bears, and this past week to the Jets, in which early on in that game they were driving down the field. It was 3rd and goal. They were up 7 points. All they have to do is just hang on to the football, and they're going to take a 2-possession lead. Most likely get a field goal, or maybe could have gotten a touchdown and get a 2-possession lead. And Will Levis tries to do too much. Winds up costing him. He avoids a sack, but tries to flip the ball backwards to his running back. Winds up going on the ground, fumble, Jets recover. Momentum starts to switch towards the Jets. My pick for this game is going to be the Packers. I just think that their run game is going to be able to carry them again. I think Malik Willis will be able to play good enough football, and I don't really trust the Titans aren't going to make mistakes on offense. I don't trust that Will Levis isn't going to make isn't going to have a costly turnover or make a bad decision. I trust that Malik Willis right now is not going to make those type of decisions. So I think the Packers are going to get the win here. Moving on, you have the Chicago Bears, who are 1-1, taking on the Indianapolis Colts, who are 0-2. The Bears having a close loss to the Houston Texans after their close victory over the Titans in Week 1. And the Indianapolis Colts coming off another close loss to the Green Bay Packers after their close loss Week 1 to the Houston Texans. My pick for this game is going to be the Colts. I just think they're too talented to not win this game. I still think Anthony Richardson is very good as a runner. If they can get the run game going, this team should very much have a chance. Jonathan Taylor only carried the ball 12 times in the Packers game. He needs to get the ball. He should be getting the ball 20 plus times. Anthony Richardson threw it 34 times. He does not need to throw it that much. They kind of got away from the run game when they really didn't need to against the Packers. I think if they could stick with the run game, And I think their defense is going to be able to play very well because Bears' offensive line is not, did not play well against the Texans. Caleb Williams was pressured in all but one of his dropbacks against the Texans. Still don't know if Keenan Allen's going to be back. Don't know how DeAndre Swift hasn't really looked all that good. So, he's going to look against the Colts defense. So I do think the Colts are going to be able to do enough to get this win. Next up, you have the Houston Texans, who are 2-0, taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who are also 2-0. Houston Texans, I mentioned, coming off that victory over the Chicago Bears. And the Minnesota Vikings are coming off of a victory over the San Francisco 49ers. I'm just going to get out of the way now. My pick for this game is going to be the Vikings. As much as I like the Texans, as good as I think the Texans are going to do this season, coming off of a close victory to the Bears, I think the Vikings are going to be able to do enough to get the win here. I think the Vikings have a very good defense. Sam Darnold has actually been playing very well. If Aaron Jones is able to play, Aaron Jones got a little bit banged up in the game against the 49ers, but he did come back in that game. Plus, Ty Chandler looked really well running the ball. Obviously, you still have Justin Jefferson, though he's got a thigh bruise that he's dealing with, so that might slow him down, but I don't think it'll really do enough to take him out of the Vikings' game plan. I think he's still going to have a pretty good game. This game, initially I thought the Texans could win this game, but kind of looking at how the Minnesota Vikings have played, I think their defense is just going to be too good. And I think the Texans just aren't going to be able to do enough, especially with they could possibly missing Joe Mixon for this game. I don't know how that's. He's dealing with a slight ankle injury that he suffered against the Bears. So I do think that the Vikings get the win here. Moving on, you have another battle of two 2-0 teams in the Los Angeles Chargers, who were 2-0, coming off of a victory over the Carolina Panthers, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 2-0, coming off of a very close victory, an ugly victory over the Denver Broncos, which I already talked about. My pick for this game is going to be the Chargers, as both these teams have played very good defense and had a very good running game. I think the Chargers are going to be able to do that just a little bit better this week than the Steelers are. I think the Chargers are going to kind of be able to run the ball, play good defense, and squeak out. This probably isn't going to be an entertaining game to watch, but I do believe it's going to be a close game, but the Chargers are going to find a way to get the close victory with their run game and their defense. Moving on, you have the Carolina Panthers, who are 0-2, taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 1-1. Panthers coming off of a big loss, two back-to-back big losses to New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Chargers. And you have the Raiders, who are coming off a victory over the Baltimore Ravens, a very close victory in that game. The Panthers have decided to bench their quarterback Bryce Young, who is their number one overall pick last season. So Andy Dalton's going to be getting the start in this game. My pick for this game is going to be the Raiders. Although I do think Andy Dalton is going to play well, I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be good enough to beat this Raiders team. I think their defense is going to play well. I think Matt Crosby is going to really be able to get after Andy Dalton. I think their secondary could play well against these Panthers receivers, and I just don't trust the Panthers at all. The Panthers look like the worst team in the NFL right now, so I am going to take the Raiders to win this game. Next up, you have the Miami Dolphins, who are 1-1, taking on the Seattle Seahawks, who are 2-0. The Dolphins coming off of a very tough loss to the Buffalo Bills. They lost, I believe, 31-10. Tua Tagovailoa got knocked out of that game with a concussion. He is now on injured reserve with that concussion. They have Skylar Thompson as their quarterback for now. They signed Tyler Huntley off of the. They signed him off the practice squad to kind of be their backup. Don't really know what this offense is going to look like without Tua. You have the Seahawks coming off a very close victory to the Patriots in overtime. I mentioned, and my pick for this game is going to be Seattle. I think especially if Kenneth Walker is able to play in this game, they're going to be able to have a very good run game. Charbonnet played it pretty good against the Patriots. DK Metcalf looked very good in that game, better than I thought he would against Christian Gonzalez. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a very good game, and their defenses played pretty well over the first couple weeks of the season. And I just think their defense is going to be able to, especially with Skylar Thompson as the Dolphins quarterback, kind of contain that offense. Maybe Tyreek Hill could have a couple of big plays, and Devon Achane could have some big plays, but I don't think it's going to be enough to carry the Dolphins to a win. So I do have the Seahawks in this game. Next up, you have the Detroit Lions, who are 1-1, coming off of a very close loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking on the Arizona Cardinals, who are 1-1, coming off of just a blowout victory over the Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals in back-to-back weeks have actually looked really well, have looked really good. They lost a close game week 1 to the Bills, and then blew the Rams out of the water. And you have the Lions, who week 1 had an overtime victory, tough, gritty victory over the Rams. And then last week just came up just short against Tampa Bay, had some clock management issues before halftime so they weren't able to make a field goal attempt going into the half that would have made the game closer, and they wound up just getting a very close loss. My pick for this game is going to be the Cardinals. I believe the Lions are very good. I think their offense is still very good if they can kind of get an identity. They don't really show much of an offensive identity right now. We'll start off being a run team and then a pass team and kind of flip-flop back and forth, even though they do have a very good run game, but they also have a very good pass game. I think they just need to find some consistency. And the Cardinals have been very surprising to me thus far this season. They are definitely better than I thought they were going to be. So I do think that they're going to be able to win this game. Kyler Murray's playing very, very well. Marvin Harrison, James Conner is very consistent. And their defense is kind of better than I thought they would be. So I do think the Cardinals get the win here. Next up, you have the San Francisco 49ers, who are 1-1, taking on the Los Angeles Rams, who are 0-2. The Niners coming off of that loss to Minnesota. The Rams coming off that devastating blowout loss to the Cardinals. Both these teams are injured right now. The biggest injuries for the Niners is obviously Christian McCaffrey, who was put on IR before week 2 with his calf and Achilles injury. And recently, Deebo Samuel has revealed he's going to miss some time with a calf injury. And for the Los Angeles Rams, you have Puka Nacua, who was put on week 1, IR after week 1. You have Cooper Kupp, who's dealing with an ankle injury and set to miss some time. And then their offensive line is banged up, and one of their starting guards is going to miss some time. So my pick for this game is going to be the 49ers. I just think even with the injuries that they have, Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, they still have some offensive firepower. Jordan Mason has looked good over the first 2 games. George Kittle playing good. Brandon Ayuk should hopefully be able to, get some targets and, kind of work his way back into the offense after starting slow the first 2 games. I just think this 49ers defense is going to be able to get after Matthew Stafford, especially with a banged up offensive line and, not really knowing who that number 1 receiver is going to be for the Rams. So I think the 49ers get the win here. Next up, you have the Baltimore Ravens, who are a surprising 0-2, taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who are 1-1. The Baltimore Ravens coming off that close loss to the Raiders, and the Cowboys coming off of getting humiliated and blown out by the New Orleans Saints. My pick for this game is the Ravens. A biggest reason for that is the Dallas Cowboys run defense has not looked all that great over the first 2 weeks. It hasn't looked great dating back to their playoff loss last season and late in the last season. So I think if the Ravens can really get Derrick Henry going here, maybe, Lamar Jackson, some rushing attempts, they'll be able to kind of get the play action game going, get the pass game going, get some momentum. And, I think that their defense is going to play better than the Cowboys' offense. Because Cowboys, I think, are still trying to figure out their number 2 receiving option behind CeeDee Lamb. Week 1, it looked like it was going to be Brandon Cooks. This past week, it looked like maybe Jalen Tolbert. He had 6 catches. They also can't quite figure out the run game. It looks like Zeke is not really the answer for the number 1 running back. Rico Dowdle got some play time. Deuce Vaughn got some play time. They're still trying to figure out their run game. So I do think that the Ravens are hopefully going to be able to set the tone in the running game and get the victory here. Moving on to the Sunday night football game, you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are 1-1, coming off of their close comeback victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 2-0. My pick for this game is going to be the Chiefs. The Chiefs have continued to look like a very good team. Unfortunately, they did lose. They are going to lose Isaiah Pacheco for roughly 6 to 8 weeks with a fibula injury. But I think in the run game, they still have Carson Steele, who's very good. Samaje Perine is very good pass catching back. They just signed Kareem Hunt to their practice squad. So I don't know how much work he's going to get in this game. But they still have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, who hasn't really been much of a factor on this offense the first 2 games of the season. But maybe he'll start to work in more now. Rashee Rice, who's looked very good the first 2 games. And their strong defense. I think their defense is going to be able to, get after Kirk Cousins, who he did show the ability to move around more against the Eagles than he did against the Steelers, but I do think they're going to have a pass rush and that the Chiefs are going to be able to have a pass rush and get after Kirk Cousins. Bijan is playing very well. Drake London caught a touchdown, but I don't really think their offense is going to be able to do enough to consistently beat this Chiefs defense, and I think this Chiefs offense is just going to play too well and manage to get the victory here. For Monday night, they are doing a doubleheader. They're having an early game that kicks off around 7:30 Eastern Time, and then a later game that kicks off around 8:30 Eastern Time. The early game is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 0-2, taking on the Buffalo Bills, who are 2-0. The Jaguars coming off of a close loss to the Cleveland Browns, and then the Buffalo Bills coming off of a victory over the Miami Dolphins. My pick for this game is going to be the Bills. I think I may have been wrong about this team. They are definitely better than they definitely look better than I thought they were going to at the start of the season. This is a team that after week 1, I thought they would get the win week 1, but then would kind of start to slowly decline or not be able to find their offensive identity. I think they found it, and it might just be James Cook. It's running the ball. It's Josh Allen continuing to be Josh Allen and play very well, being possibly the second best quarterback currently in the NFL, and their defense also looks very good. Khalil Shakir looks to kind of be that number 1 receiving target for now. Keon Coleman continues to kind of work his way in. And for the Jaguars, their issue is they can't hang on to the ball. They have too many turnovers. They had fumbling issues first week. Some turnover issues. Trevor Lawrence didn't play all that great against the Browns. I don't think he's going to have all that great of a game this week either. So I do think the Buffalo Bills are going to come out and get the win. Now, the second Monday Night Football game, you have the Washington Commanders, who are 1-1, coming off of their close victory over the New York Giants, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, another team that is a surprising 0-2. Everybody expected them to win week 1. They lost to the Patriots this past week, coming off of a very close loss against the Chiefs, in which the Chiefs got a last-second field goal to win the game. My pick for this game is going to be the Bengals. I think this is definitely going to be a get-right game for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and maybe T. Higgins if he plays. I think that this Bengals offense is going to be able to play very, very well against this Commanders defense that is, over the first 2 weeks of the season, got torched by opposing offenses. Daniel Jones looked very good against this defense, so I have no question that Joe Burrow is going to look very good, and Jamar Chase, I believe, will have a very good game. He's going to kind of have his bounce back game. If T. Higgins plays in this game, I think he's going to look very good, even if he does not play. Their other receivers for the Bengals, I think, will look good against this Commanders defense. Pass defense-wise, not playing very good at all. And I think the Commanders offensively could possibly be able to make this a close game with Jaden Daniels, with his running ability, Brian Robinson carrying the football, especially against this Bengals run defense that has not played well over the first 2 games of the season. Also, Austin Eckler out of the backfield as a receiving back. I do think that the Commanders are going to be able to keep it close, but ultimately I think the Bengals are going to be able to just outplay the Commanders. I think the Bengals' offensive weapons are just going to be too much for the subpar defense of the Washington Commanders, and I do believe the Cincinnati Bengals get the win here. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to win this week. I'm hoping for a bounce back week from my picks last week. Hopefully I can, get back on the right track in my predictions. Let me know who you guys think is going to win. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time. See ya.